Night settles over Washington, D.C., the city's marble bones gleaming under a wash of amber streetlights. Federal buildings rise like silent sentinels, monuments stand frozen in their eternal pose, and the cold November air moves through the streets like a quiet warning. The Capitol breathes its usual rhythm, guarded, dignified, tense in ways most people never see. But on this night, that rhythm would break. Somewhere between dusk's last sigh and the first whisper of dawn, a man walked the city's edge with steps that barely left sound. His name was Rahmanullah Lakanwal, 29 years old, a survivor of a life carved by war, a refugee once welcomed into the country he would soon stand accused of terrorizing. The National Guard had been deployed throughout the city for weeks, responding to a climate of unrest and uncertainty. They stood in small clusters, not armed for combat but trained for vigilance. They expected long hours, cold winds, and routine. What they did not expect was gunfire. It began with a quiet shape emerging near the subway entrance, a figure alone, pacing, waiting. A burst of gunfire erupted so violently it seemed to tear open the night itself. Screams ricocheted off stone buildings. Boots scraped pavement as soldiers dove for cover. Two uniforms fell one instantly, one collapsing in agonizing slow motion. The air filled with the metallic scent of gunpowder and the shock of betrayal. In those seconds, a city built on order drowned in chaos. The shooter fled, but not far. Officers stormed the area, sirens screaming past monuments and barricades. He was taken down and hospitalized after a confrontation, his body battered, his eyes half closed, drifting between consciousness and pain, when his virtual court appearance was arranged. He lay in a hospital bed, wrapped in blankets. A camera aimed at a face that barely moved. His attorney spoke the words for him, "Not guilty." Prosecutors listed the charges in a tone cold enough to freeze air: first-degree murder, multiple counts of assault with intent to kill, illegal use of a firearm. The judge listened, her face stern and flinching, as the images of the ambush played in her mind. Surveillance footage showed him waiting. A stance too deliberate to be chance. The weapon raised. The muzzle flash. Soldiers falling. Civilians scattering. Panic spreading like wildfire along the city blocks. She denied bond without hesitation. The victims were young, heartbreakingly young. 20-year-old National Guardsman Sarah Beckstrom never made it home, a girl with a laugh her friends described as the kind that filled a room, a daughter whose parents collapsed in grief. When they arrived at the hospital, her fellow guardsman, 24-year-old Andrew Wolfe, holds on to life with machines and prayers doing the work his body cannot. His family sits beside him, asking questions no doctor can answer. As dawn came after the attack, memorial candles appeared near the subway station, small flames trembling in the morning wind. Flowers lay beside handwritten notes. Neighbors who didn't know the victims stopped and stared, touched a photo, wiped a tear. Parents held their children a little closer. The city felt wounded, as though a breach had opened not just in its security, but in its soul, nationwide. The story spread with a force Washington could not contain. An Afghan national turned suspect. Refugee program under scrutiny. Headlines sharpened language like weapons. Politicians demanded answers. Others urged caution against inflaming fear. But fear was already there in the glances people exchanged on trains, in the way strangers watched each other too long, in the tremor of uncertainty that settled over communities. Lakanwal had once worked in counterterrorism in Afghanistan, a part of a world shaped by conflict. They trained to face danger abroad. They did not expect it outside a subway station on American soil. Washington, D.C. tries to restore its calm. Street sweepers pass over dried blood. Tourists take photos again. Offices reopen. But an unease lingers. Like a shadow that bends around every corner, night falls. And the city changes. People walk faster. They look over their shoulders. They whisper about what happened and what it means. Is this a sign of something bigger? A single man's unraveling. A failure of systems that promised protection. In the quiet moments long after sirens fade and cameras pack away, the Capitol sits with its grief. The memorial candles burn low. The flowers wilt. A mother places her hand on her daughter's picture and asks why. A father stands beside her, unable to answer. Wolfe's family whispers encouragement into a body that cannot respond. Fellow guardsmen stand at attention during a ceremony none wanted to attend, somewhere else in the city. In a stark hospital room, Rahmanullah Lakanwal waits for trial. Machines hum around him. Guards stand outside his door.